I do not think that PirateSoftware is this lead coder bro that he often makes himself out to be. Moreover, concerning the videos of Slop News Networks and possibly one other, concerning the latest pirate drama, I didn't agree with everything in them. But I wouldn't make a video nitpicking someone's points or because I disagreed with this particular thing or whatever. Which is why this video is only about this person. Someone who taught themselves to code in 3 months and has the life advice to help you do it too. This video This video concerns their series of videos about PirateSoftware and the lies and frauds therein. But the most annoying thing about all of this is the coding. I say it's the coding. It's the because we're all pretending like this CodingJesus guy who is an absolute who like actually like that actually LARPs as a coder is possibly one of the biggest frauds on YouTube. We get to see actually in real time like someone actually taking this advice as legitimate advice, and it is brutal to watch.
When you look at any function call as another developer, you should understand what's going on without needing to read through the implementation of the actual method itself. So part type sprite, part type size, I don't need to read through that to understand what's being passed to it and what it's doing. But that's not what's going on here. I should need to ask myself, what is this number 1? What is the 0? What does it signify? Right? And I create the car object by passing in 96 4 false false. Do you have any idea about what those numbers mean? Oh, I'm initializing that car. You don't. A step above that, a better alternative would be to specify in words what 96 means. For example,
he's using a particle, and the criticism here is that the arguments that get taken in, the numbers, are magic numbers. Essentially, you don't know what this means. And these arguments, these are not functions that he had written himself, but you can very easily use variables to show what each number does. So let's do that.
Oh Jesus.
Input does, but that doesn't mean that it's obvious from reading this. To improve readability, the suggestion is to use variables that replace each number. So let's do that.
Let's just do the big reveal like right now. Like what do these numbers do? Part, type, size. What are this? What are the? I don't. Oh, whoa! There you go. There you go. Part type, size, size minimum, size maximum, size increase, size middle. Don't like that there. Hit the button again. You like the buttons that you like doing it like that? Hit the button.
sign 32-bit integer, horsepower equals 96. Number of doors equals 4. Is automatic equals false. Is electric equals false. And then pass that into the construction of car. That is the bare minimum. That's what I would expect out of an intern that's fresh out of school. Taking that a step further,
This is basics of basics of basics, and the words coming out of CodingJesus' mouth will get you laughed out of the building. It is ridiculous to explicitly give every number some name because you're putting that number into a function. And the function that you're sending it to will give it a different name. And we could read the names here of the names of the things that we're giving value to. We're doing that now. We're giving these variables values. Gravity, direction. We're giving that variable a value of -1. That's the purpose of calling this. We're not going to add another step to do it because we're doing it now. That's we're gonna create something nasty here. We're gonna create something nasty.
So this is essentially the same code, just written differently. And if we run it again, we can see that it works just the same.
We turned 5 lines of code into 35 lines of code, and we're not done.
As before,
We're not done.
The difference is, of course, how it is written, and this is longer, yes. But because we have extracted variables and properties of this particle, we have them all in a neat list, and we don't have to go through these things to find them. If we ever want to change, let's say the size, I can just, max size, this is the size. I can just go to 10, you can see, oh, okay, gets bigger, easy. If we look at the previous code, it's much more difficult. You would have to, okay, this is the particle, then size, I guess, and then, okay, which one of those is, then you...
Here you go. Size. Let's see, max size. Here. There you go. Imagine a list that he made. Imagine it twice as big. That's easily possible.
How about when you see the max size? This is much cleaner code. And if you really wanted to, you could put all of this in a single function.
Oh god.
This is what it would look like if we put this in a function. And of course, this is a lot of work.
Oh god.
Which is why he didn't do it. This is a lot of work to put in now. What this allows you to do is you can just take all...
I think we're up to 50 lines of code. And by the way, when you want to edit something here, you don't want it to have the gravity component. How many lines of code now do you need to change? If you look at the original implementations here, the particle right before it is using something called part system depth. It's using a depth component into its particle. It doesn't have this here. And the particle he creates after uses an alpha 3 component. Again, different particles apparently have different components. So the monster you just created there isn't even reusable. But your implementation involves a 25 parameter function. 25 parameters. The reason why they split this all up is because it's easier when you split it up.
To be visually very interesting, as you can see, it is way longer, but much more readable. If you read a book, you notice that the text is not extremely condensed.
I can't be 100% sure that this entire video isn't one of the greatest satire pieces of all time. Little sneaky parts. We went from 5 lines of code to now our analogy is about how books are readable. Like how books are laid out.
Is way longer, but much more readable. If you read a book, you notice that the text is not extremely condensed.
It's total nonsense. But there's millions of people watching these videos and millions of people taking it in. And some of them, the worst part of it is some of them are have coded, are actually becoming worse coders because we're just taking this guy's word because we like the guy who he's smearing. So now CodingJesus is being regarded as someone who actually codes and isn't just a crypto some crypto larper. He taught himself programming in 3 months and he can teach you too. Grats. The YouTuber CodingJesus releases a video where he benchmarks PirateSoftware's lighting system, though not before unscrupulously editing the code, lying about needing the edits and forgetting to mention that it will result in tanking the performance of the script. Then he shows the script lighting a single square sprite at 20 FPS.
Nothing wrong with the game whatsoever. It functions completely normally, is highly performant.
I partnered with a professional game maker developer to test this assertion. We benchmarked his lighting system.
That code is running the collision check and the drawing the pixels 80,000 times. Less than 20 FPS.
The code for that benchmark is pulled from a 2018 demo. The lighting script is imported into Modern Game Maker and is edited to run each frame.
The only things I've changed are this line right here, where it says it's just a conditional basically, and I've just replaced it with true, meaning it's always going to run. And the reason for doing that is because whenever this was here, it would just flicker, so I just took it out.
The line being removed is this line. The code is asking, is this image the same as it was the last time we ran it? Or is the sprite within the image that you want us to light the same as the last sprite that we lit in this image? One of those needs to be different. So the running animation is 10 frames per second. So if this script was responsible for lighting a character it would be doing the lighting 10 times a second, not trying to do it 60. And there was an important qualifier there we will get to. Of the idea that things that aren't moving and aren't changing and aren't the character basically will never be relit is simply not explained. So by removing those lines, we edited the code to run each frame rather than run only when needed. This change to the code is not explained to the viewers besides stating that
It's just a conditional basically, and I've just replaced it with true.
the line of code that stopped the code from running, that stopped the code from lighting the thing every single frame, was somehow making the character flicker, or the box flicker in this case, although they won't show it and they're lying about what it did.
It's just a conditional basically.
But whatever. So when the Pirates code was not running at all because their box is static and there is no sprite being animated, it calculated the light to the sprite on frame 1 and then waited for the sprite to change, but the sprite never changed, so we don't recalculate the lighting. The result of the benchmark is well shown. They render a simple, unanimated, unchanging sprite at 20 frames per second using Pirate's edited code. And they proclaim in surprise and shock.
That code is running the collision check and the drawing the pixels 80,000 times.
As they show the output of a variable they inserted to count this number. But note that the sprite they are using was arbitrarily chosen by them.
I have this sprite here. This is a 800 by 100 sprite. So somewhat large, but not absurdly large.
The 80,000 number that they exclaim and somehow surprised by is
80,000 times less than 20.
800 width of 800, which they chose, times a height of 100, which they chose. 800 times 100 is 80,000. They created a variable and a function to count a number that was defined by them in the width and the height. I'm not entirely sure they knew what they were counting. It's just the number of pixels it has. 80 times 100 is 80,000. You didn't need to insert that variable to count this number, nor should it be a surprise when it outputs the number. They chose the length and width of the sprite. They output the number of pixels the sprite has. Woeful incompetence or ludicrously bad faith. You choose.
It's just a conditional basically.
There's two Steelman arguments here, but the first Steelman being that they remove the line of code so it would also run each frame in order to test the difference in performance of the scripts. Though if that was true, why lie about the reason you took it out? Why not simply say what it does and what it is you are doing by removing it? The more importantly, they explicitly state that Pirate's code renders every object of every pixel of every frame. Full stop. That's what they said.
And hundreds of pixels. And to check each of them on the X and the Y coordinate, every single frame for every single object doing this is gonna be abysmal for performance.
Coordinates, every single frame for every single object doing this is going to be abysmal. Their clear intention is for people to believe that it does the thing they explained, that it renders each pixel each frame, and then showed it doing, rendering each pixel each frame, and there simply isn't any other conclusion. They didn't forget to mention that it only does this because they edited the code. This is in fact their intention. The second Steelman being, okay, he lied and it's a fraud, but does the script not suck? Does the script not suck? And in my original evaluation, I overlooked two elements of this, which the first being the switch, the light direction switch. This is just, you can think about it, it's just like the train track, right? So that's basically a switch. So we'll define the switch here, and then each of these is labeled case, and then value. Case, value, and the switch is going to say what it is where a value. So the switch, we're going to be checking for light direction, and yeah, the case 0 is light direction equals 0. Now, originally, I just assumed this was just like the default lighting position or whatever. Thank you, user for Reddit, for actually looking into these variables. Or I was just ignoring them. Yeah, if you look at this light direction, only one light in the entire game is set to 0. It is GML object underscore obj underscore bedroom underscore wind beam underscore create underscore 0. It's the beam of light in the bedroom, which is the opening sort of scene, the game thing, opening, yeah, level, I don't know. That is the only time this is ever used. The only light in the game that this is ever used is that beam of light. That's it. So, moreover, the second thing I overlooked is this variable here, light underscore diffuse. Again, I assumed it was like, it was always like all of the light or something. It was all of the diffuse. It was the whole thing or whatever. So this is going to be repeating this amount of times. Okay, what is that variable set to? It turns out that variable is only ever set to either 0, 5, or 8. So our light is lighting this, and we're checking these axes until we find the pixel as was described by in the CodingJesus video. But we don't keep going. We only go whatever that value is. We only go between 5 and 8 pixels. The shader which we have spent, which we've been on this whole time, it is an edge shader for a particular kind of light that only is ever used once. So it doesn't render the whole character. It just is it only adds something to the edge of the character. It is an edge shader. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about a single edge shader used once and doesn't actually redraw the sprite if it's the same.
I decided to inspect PirateSoftware's proprietary 2D ray tracing solution. Thor loops over every pixel in a sprite, checking if each pixel touches or overlaps with a certain object. If it does, it then applies a light effect repeatedly, and with each repeat, it makes that light fade more diffuse. He then draws said colored pixels at that location to simulate the light fall-off. Let's say your sprite is 128 by 128 pixels. That's 16,384 position checks he's doing per frame.
And we're pretending like it does render each sprite.
Thor loops over every pixel in a sprite.
Every single frame
he's doing per frame.
We're pretending like it renders everything in the whole game, in every scene.
The X and the Y like coordinate, like every single frame for every single like object.
We're pretending like this matters at all. Edges. Like, is there a better way? Yeah. Is this a problem though? No, it's not a problem. Not at all. Sorry, it's not a problem. Deal with it. The game which PirateSoftware has been working on for nearing 9 years. We are in Yondev. We're clearly in Yondev territory here. It was originally received crowdfunding for 684 backers, pledged $19,272. Pirate's game is long overdue. He obviously needs to either issue refunds or stop streaming 12 hours a day. Though I'm also not going to pretend that the hate brigade currently spreading false information actually cares if he finishes it or not, or if it's a good game or not. They like videos that humiliate the person that they don't like. So here we are. And there's no creator I could think of in which pointing out the clear as day fraudulence of new allegations unrelated to others is met with sweeping vitriol and accusations of defending anything and everything they've ever done.